lot of people, I think, who are entrepreneurs get frustrated working overseas because maybe there's a language barrier or time zone barrier. Like I've always found it's like these guys are like kind of the hardest working engineers you're ever going to find in your life. And as long as you're very clear and specific, you provide a really good engineering spec sheet of what you want to build, they're going to knock it out of the park. If you're like vague and like, I don't know what I'm building, I don't know what I'm doing, like, yeah, I mean, you're going to get crappy products, but that's like always the case. I mean, you know, even Americans like will do the same thing.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. We kind of over-index on making these specs and like PRD as specific as possible.
I think it's good to get really detailed, like really, really nerdy when working overseas. It just, I think, leads to better results. They have like better questions. There's more intentionality with like what we're designing and developing.
Max, welcome to Founders and Empanadas, my friend. Thank you so much for coming on.
I'm so glad to be here. Can I say, I have like an embarrassing thing to admit, like right off the bat. I've never had an empanada in my life. So this is going to be the first one that I ever have. And you picked like something that looks really good.
We are going to pop the empanada cherry today.
We are. Look at this box, like so decadent. It's not that I've never wanted to have them. It's just like I was a picky eater for like a lot of my life until like just now. You know what I mean? And now I'm like trying everything. So I'm actually like super stoked to try some.
Awesome. Yeah, let's dive in. See what flavors you got today.
That's actually good. You actually know more than me. I think it was like chicken and mac and cheese. Is that right?
And a little bit of ice cream in there. Why not?
Okay, yeah, you're just mixing in a whole bunch of good stuff. Okay, cool.
All right, cheers. How's it?
5 stars. I'm a big like texture person when I eat, and I like how crispy like it is on the outside. Like who doesn't love like bread and good meat, you know?
All right. Even for picky eaters, it's one of the easier ones to adjust to.
Yeah.
Awesome, Max. Well, super grateful to have you on today. I am really excited to dive deeper into the gaming industry, the future of the industry, and also different ways that companies can monetize through games. It's an area that we work with quite a bit at NeoWork, and always excited to connect with founders on the other side of the table and see the latest trends that you're seeing in space. But before we dive into it, I understand you also have a podcast that you recently started. Do you want to share a little bit more with the audience? What's it called and what the topics are?
Oh yeah, awesome. Sure. Yeah, we started a new podcast called Game Jam, and it's just to like increase the brand awareness of Adrenaline Interactive. We have like conversations with a lot of awesome game studio owners in my network and publishers. And we just get nerdy about like what's going on in the gaming universe and what games they're making and what they're thinking about in gaming. So it's definitely like a really interesting time, I'd say, the gaming industry. There's a lot of different directions that gaming could go from this moment. So there's a lot of different spicy takes, and it's pretty exciting.
Spicy empanada takes, I like it. And shout out to Jake and Thursday Labs, our shared podcast production company.
We love you, Jake.
Awesome. Well, Max, I'd love to dive into the evolution of the gaming industry and get your perspective on it. So to start things off, what's one industry shift that you see some or most founders are still underestimating?
The biggest one, and this has been true for a while, is the amount that women play video games. So 2025, you're not going to believe me, but this is the truth. In 2025, today, there are more women that play video games daily than men in the US. It's pretty wild. A lot of that is mobile gaming, like Match 3, Candy Crush, Royal Match, Stardew Valley, The Sims, those titles. But yeah, I mean, it's just like a big unexplored space. So you see like a lot of awesome women like coming up and creating game studios. They're like women-owned studios, creating cozy games for women. It's super exciting to see, and like definitely a lot of opportunity in that sector.
It's just one data point, but at my company, I can definitely validate that there's more female than male gamers on my team. We ran a Mobile Legends competition, which is like the #1 mobile game in the Philippines right now, and the first and second place across the team was were female members of the New York squad. So it's surprising take, but I can definitely validate that.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that's like, well, people think of gaming when they think of gaming, they think of these hardcore games like World of Warcraft and Fortnite, these like kind of like masculine dominated games. But then when you actually like, start to think about it more, like Candy Crush and The Sims and Wordle and all these other games, you realize like, oh yeah, like actually women are playing a lot of games right now.
Totally. Yep. And I'm curious, Max, just a little bit more about to hear more about your founding story and how you got into the gaming industry, and kind of walk us through the steps that you took towards founding your current company.
Yeah, that was a fun story. So, my first job out of college, I was working as a software engineer at Ford Motor Company. It was an excellent job, my dream job. I wanted to work at Ford all my life. Um, but I was always entrepreneurial and I was always doing things on the weekends. So on the weekends, I programmed a mobile game. I made it with a bunch of my friends that at the time were in the NFL. And in March of 2022, it like exploded in popularity. Top 100 mobile game in the US, 500,000 players. I was making more money from my mobile game than I was at my 9 to 5 programming for Ford. And my friends are always like, Max, you're freaking crazy. Like, you have to drop out of Ford and pursue this. And eventually in March, I took their advice. So I left and um, just like formed a company around this one game, really trying to like grow this one mobile game into the largest game in the world.
Amazing. And when you decided to make the jump from Ford to going full time on this game, were you already monetizing at that point? And what were some of the numbers around traction with the game?
Yeah, it wasn't like I think I did it like as smart as I possibly could have. Like I was making more money per month, a lot more money actually from my mobile game than I was as a software engineer for Ford. So uh, there was that kind of like safety net, I suppose. Like I kind of knew that I wasn't going to starve or be homeless. We had about 25,000 daily active players at that point when I left Ford.
Wow. Okay. Excellent. And gaming monetization is an area that I think about actually quite a bit because so many of our teammates work in the space.
Hmm.
And I feel like so many companies, especially in the mobile gaming space, do it the wrong way to the point where it's predatory type pricing and going after the most vulnerable people. But there's other ways to monetize, such as inserting brands. And I'd love to learn a little bit more about kind of the work that you're doing and more creative and I guess also more ethical ways of monetizing mobile games.
Yeah, so the way that my mobile game was monetized when I first left Ford, right, was two ways. It was in-app purchases. You could buy extra lives when you died. Very popular purchase. People are like, I don't want to lose my progress. Let me pay 99 cents to continue. And then also ads, of course. And you know, like in-app purchases, I think honestly they can be predatory, but I think as long as you're not doing like any loot box stuff, like, most of the time if you're making a purchase, it's probably well intentioned. The ads though are like it's hard to do ads in a way that's not kind of predatory, right? Like um leveraging kind of first party data and stuff, you can get really targeted to users with kind of ads that may or may not be credible. Also, I felt with like my game Deep Past Jam, a constant like point of feedback I was hearing from my players was, Max, I hate that it's interruptive. Like I'm playing the game and I'm having a great time, and then I have to like wait 30 seconds for this ad to go away. Um, so that was definitely not like exciting for me. Just kind of like as soon as my game started charting, like it was one of the top mobile games in the US, I started like serendipitously getting brand deals from mortgage companies, retail companies, and they were like, Max, we'll pay you money to like plan a more interesting experience in the game. And this was like super powerful, right? Because I saw like, okay, the brand is really benefiting and my players really enjoy the experience as well. And I'm earning money. Like it's a win-win-win. Let me try to like do this more kind of intentionally. That's when I learned like there's a lot of innovation that can happen in this space. And that's why I'm starting Adrenaline now. Adrenaline is totally dedicated on like facilitating these kind of like brand placements more commonly, I guess, and with more value.
Very cool. And I'm just curious, how do you integrate adrenaline in existing games, and what does the implementation process look like for game studio that's looking to monetize in other ways?
Yeah, we have we have a website, adrenalineinteractive.ai. And if you're a game studio and you have a popular game, go on there, sign up the intake form. There'll be somebody from my team that reaches out. The integration process is super easy, and that's something that I always wanted to like make sure, because as a game studio owner, I integrated with a bunch of ad networks. Some of them were like pretty arduous and like annoying to integrate with. So I wanted to create an experience that was simple for game studio owners. Our tool basically, if you're like a Unity studio, for instance, if you imagine like your games, there's a bunch of like objects in your games, like characters, walls, floors, maybe guns. You just literally flag surfaces in each of these objects, and then the advertiser is allowed to programmatically reskin that to their brand. So it's super easy and quick for you guys to do.
Very cool. Hey Max, are you familiar with the game Axie Infinity?
I am. I am familiar.
So in the Philippines, it blew up during the pandemic in
Yep.
2020, 2021. And the people that got in there early, they actually made quite a bit of money off of it to the point where they're like buying homes in the Philippines and buying their new motorcycles with it. But then unfortunately, everyone that caught on during the tail ends ended up losing quite a bit, and actually impacted a few of the New York teammates as well. So I'm curious your take on blockchain related games, how relevant you see them being going forward, and yeah, that form of monetization in game.
I have like a deep it's kind of weird. I have a weird thing about Web3 games. I have like part of me like deeply hates them, and part of me like really loves them, and I can't it's kind of contradictory if I'm being honest, and I don't know how to reconcile it, but that's just how I feel. Like on the one hand, you do have these instances of Web3 games that have been kind of rug pulley, and like Axie Infinity is a great example. Like it was going so great for so long, but then the ending, like it's hard to justify like how this game kind of existed knowing how it ended. But on the other hand, like I see games like Pixels XYZ. I'm a big fan with the owner of that studio. Luke is an amazing game studio owner, and he really has like these great first principles about like we're going to create a really fun farming game, and it just so happens that it also has Web3 integration. Like that's not necessarily the focal point. But like the result of that is he has a really amazing community that are super like evangelists for the game. They always want to promote it, always want to get people playing. And there are people that have made money on Pixels, like a lot of money, which is pretty awesome. And I see them going to the moon forever. So yeah, it's kind of two sides of the coin for me.
Very cool. Another personal story. I remember back in the day. This was, I think, end of high school, early college, when Diablo 3 came out, and they were sharing more about their marketplace. And my high school version of myself thought that I was gonna make a side job out of selling Diablo 3 items. But have you seen any video games that have pulled off that marketplace monetization strategy well, or what are your takes on that method of monetization?
It's really interesting. So like Activision Blizzard is the most valuable game studio in the world. They own games like World of Warcraft and my favorite game, Hearthstone, as well as Call of Duty and also Candy Crush, believe it or not. Like that people who aren't in the gaming world don't know that, but Activision Blizzard owns Candy Crush because they acquired King. Activision Blizzard, it's the most valuable game studio in the world for one reason. And the reason is that they realized that we're going to make our games economy like closed. Like this is a very interesting thing. For thousands of years, dating all the way back to like ancient Damascus, when people were like gambling on the streets, playing rummy, right? Almost every game was an open economy. And what does open economy means? It's kind of exactly what you're talking about, Josh, where it's like I can like buy this skin in CS:GO, and then I can sell that skin for real American dollars, and I can use that money to go buy groceries and clothes, and I can take the remaining thing and put it back into gaming, and I can take it out of the game and I can put it back in. Like it's all fluid, and the economies are kind of open. Activision Blizzard flipped the script. They're in 2010. They were like, nah, 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 nah. We're gonna make it closed. Like every item that you buy in an Activision Blizzard game is soul bound to you, and that has two effects, right? It means like if you buy a skin in an Activision Blizzard game, it's super cheap. It's like way cheaper to like start playing these games than any other games on the market. But then it's also hard to leave because like you've eventually after like months put like hundreds of dollars into this game and you have all these skins and you can't sell them. Like you can't sell them back out for American dollars. So it's kind of like the sunken ship philosophy. I also think it kind of dovetails, Josh, and I know I'm rambling, but it dovetails nice with like the conversation we just had about crypto. I actually think like one of the big reasons why crypto gaming like exploded like when it did is because people feel isolated on like how much Activision Blizzard has kind of been like fuck you to like the people that enjoy gaming in that way with like open economies. Crypto by nature is like open economies. You can't have a crypto game that isn't open. So yeah, all the players I feel maybe disenfranchised by Activision Blizzard are gravitating towards crypto games, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's an interesting way to put it. That the items in their games are, I guess, soulbound, except for like if you get Chinese farmers to to generate enough gold for you to purchase it in other ways. But
I mean, literally, there are like black markets where you can like buy like World of Warcraft accounts on the black market. But the thing is like Activision Blizzard is actually really savvy and good at like banning those accounts like pretty thoroughly. Like it's really hard actually to do. So yeah, there's Chinese farmers that like do all these sketchy things, but honestly, Activision Blizzard has it figured out. Like one of the things is I always think to myself is like, I don't love Activision Blizzard's monetization purchases from like a player perspective, but from like a business owner perspective, like game recognized game, you know what I mean? They know what they're doing like to make a buck. And I would advise other people, if you're starting a game studio, to take a page out of their book. I really would, because they know what it means to make a game that's profitable.
and great to hear you're a fellow Hearthstone fan. It's been a couple years, but I played back in like the early like Next Promise days. But that was my jam.
I love it.
Awesome. How's the empanada coming along?
That's good, man. That's good. I love the I think I'm gonna go like I'm gonna become like an empanada addict after this. I'm gonna be like Josh, like got me onto it in the empanada and founder chat.
Yeah, the whole point of this podcast is just making more empanada addicts at the end of the day. It's my long-term plan for world domination of empanadas. So, Max, are there any other industry trends you'd say that are currently overhyped or misdirected right now?
Overhyped or misdirected. Interesting. Well, like the games industry is like really kind of at an interesting inflection point because like for 30 years it's been like the craziest bull run in the world for gaming. Like even during the 2008 housing crisis, which was like a really terrible recession economy, and most people cut spending on kind of like luxury type of things like gaming you'd expect to like be cut. Actually, like gaming thrived in the 2008 recession. It also thrived during like the COVID economy. A lot of people kind of theorize that like gaming is recession proof. Like even during recessions, like people would flock to gaming. And now like gaming has kind of stagnated for the past like year and a half. Like it's an industry that hasn't really grown much. And I think that's like people are kind of sky is falling mode. They're like, oh my god, like gaming's never gonna grow again. Like this is it. Like this is the peak, and it's all downhill from here. I think that sentiment is overhyped. Like obviously, yes, I think that gaming is maturing as an industry, but I don't think that the sky is falling. I think that gaming will be fine in the long run.
What factors would you attribute to the slowdown in the industry besides people just wanting to get out more and not stuck in pandemic mode?
I think that gaming, like over the past 30 years, there's been so many like amazing innovations in gaming, like one after another. Like, I mean, everybody talks about like Doom, for instance. Doom was really good at like a few things, like live action multiplayer. The fact that you can like play a game in real time against another person. We take that for granted now in 2025 because it's ubiquitous, but like before Doom, it didn't exist. And that means that you have like a lot of people sharing Doom kind of like organically with each other. This organic growth is like obviously like really lucrative for game studio owners if you can pull it off. The other thing that Doom did that was kind of crazy was they gave away their game for free. And they were kind of like the first people to like pioneer that kind of like freemium model where you give away the initial game for free, but then you have to buy in-app purchases and downloadable content on top of it. And that proved to be like just insanely lucrative and profitable. So there's all these innovations, and I would say like basically my my analysis of the gaming industry is that we're reaching a point where like the innovations are harder now. Like it's going to be like less common that like a game comes out that totally revolutionizes the space.
Yeah. And what are some of those recent emerging technologies that you just referenced over the past 3 years?
I mean, I would definitely classify, like, not to brag on myself, I'd classify adrenaline as definitely one of those emerging technologies, and maybe I can talk about it more broadly than just gaming. There's a whole like market sector called virtual product placement, or VPP, that has emerged in the past 3 years due to the advancements in AI, that allows you to like place products in media, not just gaming, but also like movies, television, social media, like a lot more seamlessly than you ever could before. Um, that's gonna like revolutionize advertising in general, like virtual product placement in general. I'm just really bullish on this space. There's a world, and I think we're all rooting for this world. Josh, you tell me if this is inaccurate, but nobody wants to watch TV commercials. I mean, literally nobody. So it would be so much better if like you're watching your favorite film and then just like inserted into the film, there's like a bunch of like Pepsi cans and like Lexus cars and stuff, but it's all like seamless like in the media. You know what I mean? Like it's almost an additive to the scene. Um, that's kind of like the direction of like where advertisers are going, kind of like merging the media with the ad itself, blending the two together.
Yeah, and there's definitely a fine line of doing it in a tasteful way. I always think back to things like a Transformers movie where the scenes would fall in like a 5 second long view of a Mountain Dew bottle. It's like, okay, guys, we get it after 1 second in.
There's better and worse ones. My favorite of all time is there's like a scene in the Man of Steel movie where Superman is fighting like the arch villain, and the arch villain like throws Superman like straight through a 7-Eleven. So like it's kind of like those kind of moments I think are really fun and engaging.
That movie has a lot of good clips. Martha, her name's Martha.
Exactly right.
Awesome, Max. Have you tried empanada number 2 yet? Or still working on the first one?
Let me get an empanada number 2.
What do you think?
It's good. It's actually funny because like it's a lot different because the ingredients are different. You know what I mean? You gotta like. I think what I'm realizing about empanadas is it's not like a one thing, like a one flavor. You know what I mean? Like you can go more savory, you can go more sweet, you can like you can go more breakfast, you can go more dinner. Very versatile food.
I do. I have 5 empanadas every day, so I can speak to that. I'm like a hobbit with all my different meals of empanadas.
What is your favorite flavor of all time?
Yeah, I'm pretty vanilla. I just go with my old and trusty beef empanada. Can't go wrong with that.
Okay, cool.
But I do Colombian style. You got Argentinian style empanada. It's corn based instead of bread.
Okay, I see. Cool. I gotta go like Colombian style next time. I'm gonna remember. I'll snap you a picture, Josh, of me at the next empanada place I go to.
All right. I'm looking forward to it. Awesome, Max. So I'd love to learn a little bit more about building out your team and the staffing side of it. What do you say have been some of the hardest roles to hire for, and how are you solving for that?
I guess what I'd say is like I've always I'm an engineer by trade. Like I grew up coding, and so I went to a lot of like nerdy spaces, and so like just by nature of like me attending these nerdy places, I know a lot of engineers. Um and so I've never found it challenging to hire engineers, but maybe engineers with like specific like specialties has been a little bit of a challenge, I'd say. So like for instance, I was telling you off camera, we have like a engineer that is based out of London. And the reason why like we hire out of London is because this engineer is really good at this particular like piece of in-game advertising technology that like not a lot of developers have the specialty for. So like finding those like kind of specialists, I'd say, is like definitely a challenge. And obviously, I think the other thing is like in my past, I was telling you about this, like I've worked with nearshore companies and developers to build me things. They can do it for a lot cheaper. I mean, like Americans are expensive, so it's pretty cool to like work with like LATAM and Canadian developers to make things happen.
And there's an equal, if not higher level of just passion for the gaming industry and kind of seeing their role as just like a blessing to work on what they love versus US talent, I found.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. Yeah, I mean, I think the main thing, like a lot of people, I think who are entrepreneurs get frustrated working overseas because maybe there's a language barrier or a time zone barrier. Like I've always found it's like these guys are like kind of the hardest working engineers you're ever going to find in your life, and as long as you're very clear and specific, like you provide a really good, engineering spec sheet of like what you want to build, they're going to knock it out of the park. If you're like vague and like I don't know what I'm building, I don't know what I'm doing, like yeah, I mean you're going to get crappy products, but that's like always the case. I mean, even Americans like will do the same thing. So
I wholeheartedly agree with that. We kind of over-index on making the specs and like PRD as specific as possible.
I think it's good to get really detailed, like really really nerdy when working overseas. That it just I think leads to better results. They have like better questions. Um, there's more intentionality with like what we're designing and developing.
Yeah, totally. And Max, we were talking before the recording about how you were planning to scale up a team in Ukraine and then had to pull back. What's the story behind that?
Yeah, this is kind of like crazy. So, you know, um, in in March of 2022, that NFL game I was talking about, I had a popular NFL sports game, and the team was acquired under me. They went to go work for Pokemon Go, so I was kind of like left teamless, and the game was kind of like waning in popularity, and I was thinking about like what is the next chapter for Deep Past Jam? Like what should I do with this? And I thought about selling it. I thought about raising funding. Ultimately, where I landed on was like, hey, let's go sell it to like some of these like um these collections of games that kind of like have a collection of games as a subscription. So you like pay like $5.99 a month and you get like a whole collection of games. We were talking about like Humble Bundle and Apple Arcade and Netflix. I ultimately like, had like a handshake deal with one of these guys. I won't tell you which, but it was a big deal, like six figures at stake. But they were telling me like, we need you to have a team and we need you to develop these three new things. Like there's some things that you have to develop. So I ended up like interviewing a whole bunch of teams everywhere. Landed on like this dream team based out of Kiev in Ukraine. And if you don't know, Kiev is actually like a huge gaming city. It's the number eighth like most populous city in the world for gaming. It's really popular because like English speaking city, cheaper than like most places. Also, just like wildly talented engineers. And we had an agreement. We were ready to go, and this was literally, I remember it, February 14th, Valentine's Day, 2022. And yeah, so like everything was set up, and then a week later, Russia invaded, and I talked to the team over in Kiev, and unfortunately, like a lot of the developers ended up like leaving the country or going to war. And the deal fell through. Everything fell through. Like I wasn't able to sell the game to the publisher. I wasn't able to finish the game or continue it into its next chapter, unfortunately. But I think like ultimately the biggest takeaway was just like I don't know how big your like world can be changed like so quickly. You know what I mean? Like I'm a game designer, like myself. Like that could have happened to me too. The same thing. Like what if your country is invaded, and you feel this like call to action to go, defend it rightfully. It's I think there's some gratitude for me in those moments of being like I'm really fortuitous that I like live in Michigan and there hasn't been too many wars in Michigan in the past, century. So that's kind of I don't know. It was a very humbling moment. I'll say that.
Yeah, I will say that, working with global teams is a great source of gratitude for just my life and the fact that, like, for example, my dad emigrated from Ukraine to the US and I didn't grow up in that situation right now. But again, every day there's real life scenarios, whether that's the form of like typhoons in Colombia or political instability. It's sorry, typhoons in Philippines, I should say. But yeah, that Yeah. Constant source of gratitude for me too.
It puts things in big perspective that, you know, I think as like a game studio owner, as an entrepreneur, there's these moments of like really high highs when you can get super egotistical and think like you're the man and I'm the shit. I'm doing the most important things in the universe. And like really you're not. Like you're really not. I mean, even if you're wildly successful and you have this like new enterprise six-figure deal like lined up, like there's more important things in the world. There really are. There always is. So that's something I carry with me to this day still.
And Max, I'd love to dive into the mental health side of being a founder. This is an important topic on our show, and I'd love to maybe get a little existential with it for a second. But yeah, how do you balance what you just shared about like kind of at the end of the day, your product is helping people get dopamine hits by getting kind of mobile touchdowns. How do you balance that versus kind of a more significant or more fulfilling calling, working on in a different field?
Yeah, I mean, gaming saved my life. Like there's no other way to put it. I had a really dark moment my sophomore year of college. I was 20 years old and I had this like stomach issue. I was diagnosed with irritable bowel syndrome, IBS, but it was really debilitating. Like yeah, it's a pretty gruesome, like, what I did in the bathrooms. I won't go into too much detail, but you can imagine it was not the most fun experience. It was, like, very, very painful, and I really couldn't attend class, in college, so I was skipping a lot of classes. My grades slipped, and I ended up, like, dropping out of Michigan, like, taking, like, a semester to myself, which was, like, very, like, a crazy kind of experience because everything that my parents had like set me up for, which is going to the University of Michigan and like getting a computer science degree from them. So, um, you know, this is kind of like a move that like pissed a lot of people off, I guess. And I didn't make it like lightheartedly. I was really depressed, like, even to the point of self-harm in those days. And I used gaming as like a tool to help manage my anxiety. And it really like helped me, I'd play like a couple rounds of Hearthstone and I kind of felt like powerful again, if that makes sense. Like Hearthstone is a game where you're really in the driver's seat. And so I took that sense of confidence that I had in the game and took it with me back into the real world. And it really, helped me kind of get healthy, get my grades up, get back into the University of Michigan, and ultimately graduate with a degree in computer science in 2019. It wouldn't have happened if I didn't like find Hearthstone and kind of like use that. Um, Still to this day, Hearthstone is like my biggest like tool to manage my anxiety. So being a startup founder, running a, 8-person team, raising millions of dollars, um, you could say that there's some pressures that arise from that. Every day is like a fun challenge. And some days there's like things that I feel like very out of control. And Hearthstone is like my way to kind of ground myself again and get back into the swing of things.
Max, I really resonate with your story, and thank you so much for sharing. And I also, sophomore year of college, had to take a pause my first semester due to it was a debilitating depression. And also, Hearthstone was one of the tools I used. So you never know, we might have been playing against each other back if you were in the Legends League.
We probably were. We probably were.
Yep. And I feel a lot of people view gaming as just a form of escapism and not confronting problems. But exactly to your point, I feel like it's a way to regain control, especially in kind of a single player game where you're the executive of all decision making and being able to apply that to personal life.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, there if you survey Gen Z and Gen Alpha today, like the youngest two generations, everyone 18 years old and younger, they cite that gaming is their most popular form of um, therapy to manage their anxieties. Like gaming is their best tool to manage their anxieties, girls and boys. For that exact reason, like there's kind of like the sense of like decision making and agency and putting you in the driver's seat in gaming that doesn't exist in the real world. Like the real world, you make decisions and the outcomes are so nebulous and bizarre and so non-immediate. Like it's therapeutic to like go into this environment where like all your decisions are very like palpable and felt. Um, I would say this too. Like, I think escapism is very real though too. Like, I think there was a moment where Hearthstone could have been escapism for me, like even after I got back into the University of Michigan. But fortuitously, they were like hiring esport athletes, not hiring, but they were like auditioning esport athletes, I guess. I tried out for the team and I got it. And then I became like an esport athlete. And so like I played just a stupid amount of Hearthstone, but it was all in this like effort of like winning a championship. So, it was kind of escapism, but like justified. So
I remember when they were doing the college, like NCAA tournament. That's cool. So you represented Michigan.
we did it. We had an undefeated season, my senior season. So that was a pretty special moment. Which, as you know, it's pretty hard to go undefeated in Hearthstone because there's so much luck involved. So we felt like we had the right amount of like skill. Like we had a lot of talent on our team, plus like just really lucky.
The right RNG, the right Ragnaros shots for people that get that reference.
The best players are just lucky. You know what I mean? That's what else can you say? It actually that time like playing esports taught me a lot about entrepreneurship. There's in Hearthstone, as you know, Joshua, it's a game where like probably 2/3 of the games are like out of your control. Like you either have like a great hand or your opponent has like a great hand. And if those two things are the case, then it's like it doesn't matter what decisions you make. Like I'm gonna win or you're gonna win, and there's no say in the matter. Only like about a third of the games, like skill actually factors in, where like you have to play it out. Like you guys both have crappy hands, and you have to play. I think entrepreneurship is like kind of similar in that way, weirdly. Like there's days where I wake up and I have like an exceptional hand and I know like I could fuck everything up and I'm still gonna like win the sale or like make this great hire or like land this investment deal. There are other days where it's like nothing I do matters, like I have such a crappy hand, like I'm not gonna be able to pull this off. And then there are like a few days in there where like Max Albert's skill actually kind of matters. I don't know. It's kind of my mental framework for like how I rationalize like a lot of the failures, but also the successes and like keeps me grounded. Like not all these wins are like my doing necessarily. It's just like my team and the vision of the company more broadly has put me in a great position to win here.
That's a really interesting take. And I think to add to that, there's also so much that can be done from a team building perspective or culture building perspective of the company to shift the odds from, just 1/3 of your hands being skill based to more like 50% of your hands or your days as an entrepreneur being skill based versus just luck.
I don't even know if you want, I mean, this is philosophical. I don't know if you really want like your skill to be the the deciding factor. You know what I mean? Like I think ideally like you're putting yourself in a position in a company where you give yourself room to make mistakes. You know what I mean? And you can still win or find meaningful ground to make up. I also think like as the biggest thing with the biggest antidote to bad luck is perseverance. Like that's the thing about entrepreneurship is you can buy as many lottery tickets as you want. Like you can wake up every single day for the rest of your life and like try something else. Um, so you don't have to quit. And if you keep doing things long enough, you will discover like a really good business. You'll carve something out for yourself and make some wins.
Big believer of that. You don't necessarily have a failed product that just hasn't been tested or iterated upon enough.
I've had a lot of failed products. I'll say that. So I can attest to failed products are real, but you're right. I mean, you're exactly right. It if you don't quit, I mean, really the only way you fail is if you quit. That's it.
Any failed products that now in hindsight are kind of funny failure stories, but obviously they were painful when they happened, but you want to share?
When I was in like at the University of Michigan as a side gig, I'd like make apps for friends and like entrepreneurs that recently raised funding. They'd hire me as a freelance software engineer and me and my friends. I got some like hilarious software pitches. I got some hilarious like app pitches that were just like humor. My favorite was this guy named Parker who told me that he wanted to build this app that was like Tinder meets LinkedIn. And I told him like, "Oh, great. Like swiping to like find new jobs. Like that would be great for new hires. You know what I mean? That they can kind of like seamlessly like swipe write on jobs that they think are cool. And he's like, no, Max, like, you don't understand. It's Tinder, but for hooking up with your coworkers. I was like, trying to be polite. I was like, I know some people have had office romances. Like, I guess there's a market for that. And he's like, yeah. Plus, we could sell the data to like Deloitte and like all these other places. Like the HR departments would kill for like the data on like who's dating who in the office. And I'm like, that's a horrible invasion of privacy. And also, I don't know if they'd actually want to know. I think that they are blissfully ignorant.
Right, right. Okay, yeah, that's a good example of a bad idea. Why that product has not been built.
There's been a lot of like funny like people that have pitched me stuff. There's another like guy named Turner who wanted to like he wanted to put trackers on fishes, and then you could have an app where you kind of like adopt a fish in the ocean, and it's kind of like your fish in the ocean that you can kind of track and see. And then he dropped a bomb on me. He was like, yeah, and also like if your fish is like near like somebody else's fish, you can like battle them like on a Pokemon style like fish battle mode.
My fish has evolved into a Charizard. It's wild.
Yo.
I heard a crazy idea just like 2 days ago of a founder in Medellin is really craving crumble cookies and building a whole business that imports crumble cookies specifically for the Medellin market. I was like, okay, I think he's building that just for himself.
I love that. Build for yourself, you know? You never know. Like
Yeah.
I think the best businesses start from a problem that you have. So if you want really good crumble cookies and there's none around, you know, we're gonna people are gonna think he's out of his mind, and then we're gonna wake up one day and he's gonna have like this big cookie empire. It's gonna be like the Yankee Candle of cookies, and just, you know, the whole world cookie order is like traded through his app somehow.
Don't underestimate the TAM of people late at night with munchies that need some crumble cookies in Medellin.
That TAM is huge, like trillions of dollars, based on
Totally.
my experience in college, at least.
Totally. Awesome, Max. Well, this is a question I love to ask everyone, but what's one strongly held belief that you have that you feel that 90% of other founders would disagree with?
I mean, there's definitely like, so like what comes to mind immediately is like, I believe that in-game advertising is one of the most important opportunities in gaming, and this ad network in particular has the potential to be the biggest ad network in the world, like bigger and more influential than Meta's or Trade Desk or some of these other ad networks, just because of the nature of gaming is the largest media in the world. It's like that's like a contrarian like take that I don't think a lot of people share, but I'm trying to find one that's like more like about personal stuff. You know what I mean? That's maybe more broader. Um, you know, actually, okay, I'll share this. I've been thinking about this a lot. I think that um, one of the big like things that we do a really big disservice to, especially like young men in the U.S., is we teach them that like they're not really deserving of love if they don't have success. Like you need to you need to have a lot of money. You need to like do something consequential. You need to have a good job. You need to have it all figured out. You need to figure it out early. And if you don't have it all figured out, then, you know, you're not really deserving of romantic love or familial love or even self-love. And we wonder like why men are experiencing such like mental health issues. Nobody has it figured out. Freaking nobody. And actually, I really believe this. This is maybe the contrarian thing. Like in real life, like if you look at media, I guess if you look at TV shows, it's like there's a male protagonist. The male protagonist has to win something in order to get the girl. Like it's always like he has to win the basketball game or win the war. If he's a nerd, win the hackathon in order to get the girl. In real life, it's almost always like you get the girl first, and then you both like go out and like do the really hard thing. Like you both like, you know, win the basketball game or the war or the hackathon. Like doing hard stuff is hard. Like newsflash. And like if you don't have those like safety nets around you of people that are willing to support you, um, it's going to be tough to pick yourself back off the mat when you fail. And so my big contrarian take, this is what I'd say. I don't know if it's so contrarian, but it's something we should think about more is like, if you're a man in your 20s, figure out like love first, like figure out how to love yourself and figure out familial love and like found family love and even romantic love before you like start a business, before you like try to go out and like save the world. Like You don't need to save the world yet. You're in your 20s. That's it. That's my big TED talk for the day.
Yeah. Fill your cup twice, prioritize yourself before trying to serve others or solving big problems.
It's everything, dude. It's everything. I mean, so like we just finished raising our 2 million pre-seed round, and the big like unlock for me, thank you very much. The big unlock for me was like realizing that like nobody gives a shit about my numbers. And nobody ever will. We had great numbers, like great revenue, great customer retention, and I'd always lead with that to investors. And eventually, like some people that I really love and admire, like gave me the advice, like Max, like just get rid of your numbers, like fuck your numbers, frankly. Like it's like they're gonna invest in you because of your story. And if you don't have a really good story and you don't have kind of that like love for yourself of saying like, yeah, I like flunked out of Michigan, you know what I mean? I failed, but like the reason that it allowed me to find gaming, and that's why I love gaming. Like if you don't have that story figured out for yourself, it's going to be really hard for you to raise venture capital and kind of get people on your team, so to speak.
Awesome, Max. Well, to wrap things up, where can people find you online and also find out a little bit more about Adrenaline Interactive?
Yeah, so on Twitter or X, I suppose, I'm at Max VW Elbert. Um, and on LinkedIn, Max Elbert, CEO of Adrenaline Interactive. You can see some of my bad podcast interviews there. So it should be pretty fun.
Awesome, Max. Well, thanks again so much for coming on, and we should do a little Hearthstone game one of these days.
Next time we have a pod, we'll do Empanadas Hearthstone battle.
Let's do it. Cheers,
Thanks,
man.
Josh.